Hey everybody, welcome, and thank you for listening to this episode of Marriage Therapy Radio. My name is Zach Brittle. Today I'm here with Cole and Kate Kelly, and I look forward to telling you a little bit more about them. But did you go to summer camp? Like when you were a kid, did you do summer camp, or did you have a job at summer camp? It feels like it's like the job you're supposed to get right after you graduate from college. That was Abby's first job out of college. It was my first job out of college. I went to camp a little bit. I went to like soccer camp and like YMCA camp, day camp, but I never went to like full-blown sleepaway camp. My kids both did for a week at a time. And I actually worked at a summer camp one summer after my sophomore year of college in Mentone, Alabama. I worked at Alpine Camp for Boys. And, here's what I think about summer camp. And it's that I bet if you went to summer camp today, it would be almost identical to summer camp in 1985 or 2005. It's one of those timeless places. And I think the world needs timeless places. That's why I love going to Williamsburg so much, Colonial Williamsburg. It's where I went to college. I just think that we need places that are safe, that require us to stretch, that are kind of in like just away from the noise. My phone died this weekend. Literally, it died. Like the motherboard or something died. I was without my phone for about 9 hours, and I loved it. It was amazing. I've been slowly trying to turn my phone into a brick. But I want to encourage you to go to summer camp or send your kids to summer camp just to get them into a place where you have to like look around and explore nature and have relationships and meet new friends. And today I get to talk to the Kellys, Cole and Kate, who've been in summer camp for decades. They have been working with kids and with young adults in this setting, and their philosophy is crisp and clean and pure. And they have an actual kind of tactic that they've been using for decades to help them stay connected to one another. I immediately brought their book after the interview. It's called 3 Happies and an Appreciation. After the interview, I started telling clients about this, and because I don't even know if this is the most important thing that they think they said, but there was a little sentence or a little result that was tucked into our interview. And it was Cole, I think, who said that this activity, this very simple activity that takes almost no time at all, has brought them an incredible level of attunement. And in my office, that's what most couples want. They just want to be on the same page. They just want to be a team. They just want to feel connected. They may also be trying to solve other problems like conflict or sex or, something else, but mostly they're trying to solve just the sense of being attuned to one another. And this activity, which is right there in the title, it's 3 Happies and an Appreciation, which they share with each other every single day, has really brought them closer. And you can see it, you can feel it when you listen to them talk. And then they also have a kind of a vision for how they run camp and how they think about empowering young people to become adults. It's a very important theme for me, this idea of how do we become grown-ups. And so I loved talking to these guys. I am excited to share this conversation with you. I think that, again, if you have a single takeaway, it's that there are very, very small things that you can do that have a giant impact on your relationship. And then additionally, you go to summer camp, send your kids to camp, support a camp, watch movies about camp. Let's make camp a thing again. I'm sort of pro apocalypse, I guess, in the sense that like I want to get back to the part where we just appreciate the simple things in life. And where's a better place to do that than summer camp? I have so many stories I want to tell you about my own kids from camp, but I'm going to skip it for now because this is a very cool conversation. Stick around. Kate and Cole Kelly, how you doing?
Good, Zach. How are you?
Where are you?
Athens, Georgia.
Is that where camp is, or is that just where you live right now?
No, camp actually is up in northeastern Pennsylvania. We just really don't like shoveling snow. So we live where I grew up, although Kay actually grew up just outside of Seattle.
Oh, yeah? Where'd you grow up?
I did. In Bellevue. I went to Seattle Prep for high school.
Oh, right on.
Good.
Yeah. We're empty nesting now, so our kids are leaving, but I know where prep is, and that's cool. Where'd you go after that, after prep?
I went to Dartmouth.
And then how did you end up in Athens?
I know, you and me both, Zach. I met Cole through a mutual friend, and I was living outside of Boston at the time, and she said, "Oh, you have to meet Cole Kelly." And I said, "Why? He lives in Georgia." And now here I am.
21 years later, here she is. Works out great.
Right on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where are you? Are you outside of Seattle?
No, right now I'm in Green Lake. So,
oh, okay.
This is my counseling office that I am in Green Lake. And then Cole, you're Athens, like born and bred, or how did you end up there?
Yeah, Georgia, born and bred, although we lived in Maine. I did 9 years in Charlottesville, Virginia when I was doing my undergraduate, and I did a master's degree in sports psych up there. And then it seemed like all roads led back to Athens at some point. Although we lived in Boston when we first got married, lived there for 5 years, and I got, again, really tired of shoveling snow. So we decided to move away, and I told Kate, I want to move south, but we'll pick wherever you want. And she wound up picking Athens, thank God. And it's funny, both of us, we've traveled. We've been in a lot of different homes growing up, a bunch of different times. I mean, our parents just seem to like to move everywhere. We've been in the same house now for 21 years, which is
Isn't that crazy?
But I think it's probably because we spend every summer moving back to camp. So
yeah.
It's like we've got two different worlds. We always say we have two New Years. We have New Year's on the calendar, and then when camp is done, the kids get home safely. It's like it starts another new year for us.
Yeah, I want to hear all about it. I can't resist. I grew up in Roanoke, Virginia. So
nice.
I know Charlottesville. I mean, I drove through there on the way to college. I went to William & Mary, so I was there for 4 years. Oh, nice. Yep. I always tell people that UVA was our biggest rival, but we were not their biggest rival. And then, of course, Athens is the home of REM, yeah?
That's right. REM,
tell me,
B-52s.
Tell me you have like an REM story, a good one. Do you have one?
So, well, I actually grew up playing golf. And Bill Berry, the drummer, turned out to be a golfer. And, I actually played 9 holes with him one time when I was in high school. And, I didn't make a big deal about him being who he was. And he didn't know who I was, so it worked out fine. Yeah. And I said, well, why don't we play for something? I said, how about this? Why don't, if I win, you guys play prom. And if you win, I'll go on tour with you for the summer. He's like, how about for lemonade instead? I was like,
That's awesome. So how old is he relative to you?
I think Bill is probably maybe about 10, 12 years older than I am.
Okay.
He was at that point.
Yeah, I guess that's right.
Had kids and everything else. My cousin actually works for the band. He actually runs their fan club and has forever. So, yeah.
I read about maybe 2/3 of they just put out a biography, an REM biography. That's kind of the definitive one. I know there's tons, but this was like the most. So it's been really interesting to learning about those guys and kind of their origin story and who they were as individuals and who they kind of became as a band. So that's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, they were, rock stars. I saw them at Chastain Park in Atlanta, and I mean, it was an awesome show. I mean, they know what they're doing.
Yeah. Cool. So you're in Athens. You spend time at camp. I want to hear all about. Okay, I want to talk about summer camp. Is okay? Can we talk about summer camp?
Please. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, why? Why summer camp?
This one.
How did you guys end up in summer camp?
I guess I knew I wanted to be in education. I love being around kids and teaching, and I just didn't want to be in a classroom. So when I graduated from college, I went to a boarding school and I got to coach 3 sports, and I did admission and ran a dorm, and I just loved that. And then I had a summer off, and so I thought, well, I'll just try summer camp. I didn't grow up going to this kind of a camp, where you go for 8 or 9 or 10 years and you go the whole summer. And I just fell in love with it. It was the best parts of teaching and education to me are like the life lessons and the friendships and developing skills for your, growing up time. And I can't imagine anything better than getting to educate in a place where kids want to be doing the things they want to do, surrounded by people who are really invested in their just human flourishing.
But it's not just the kids that you really enjoy. You also enjoy working with the staff.
They're kids.
Well, they're kids. Well, they're kids too.
Yeah.
They're just like college-age kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting. We get kids when they're 6, 7 from all over the world. Most of them stay for 7, 8, 9 years. So you're really getting to be a part of somebody's growing up.
They stay for a week at a time, month at a time, both? Like
anywhere from 3 weeks to 6 weeks. 6 weeks is the longest that they'll stay, with us. But then, we've got a young lady who this is her 15th summer at camp, and she's 22 years old.
Right on.
That's just incredible.
Yeah.
How did you Cole decide that you were on board?
Well, I met Kate, and it's like, whatever you're doing, honey. No, so I'd played college golf. I'd been a golf coach at the University of Virginia for a little while. I went back and got my MBA. And in the process of doing my MBA, I was coaching all the youth sport teams in Athens, Georgia, like the little leagues and basketball and all this other stuff. And I realized I wanted to work with kids. I wanted to run a business, and I wanted to teach, but I didn't want to be in a classroom either. Mm-hmm. And when I met Kate, she was talking about this camp experience. And I had gone to camp for 1 week, one summer, my entire life. It was great. My father said, great, glad you had fun. It's time to go to work. I was like, yes, sir. I was like, okay. And we got into this camp thing, and it just was perfect. It wound up, so we were hired originally because Kate is Kate. She's one of the best camp directors, operators in the country that no one knows about because she doesn't like to be in front of people. And they said,
now you're telling your whole story to 7 billion people that listen to my podcast every week.
That's right. I know the whole world knows now.
Finally, Zach. And so they hired Kate because they thought, you're going to be a great camp director. And it's funny, the guy who hired us told us the other day, said, Cole, you're the best B-side hire we've ever had. I'm like, okay, I think that's great. Yeah. But it turns out Kate was so much better at running the show. Yeah. And I was better in front of the family. So we actually ran a girls' camp. And I grew up with a brother. I didn't know anything about girls. But we ran a girls' camp for 5 years. And all the phone calls would come to me because I could, work with the parents and work with the kids. And basically I'd say, all right, Kate, how are we going to make this work? And she would make it all work. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So what is it now? Tell me about your camp.
So we're at Camp Equahic. Equahic actually was founded in 1953, and one family ran it from 1953 until 2008. And it went from zero to awesome to a fight within the family, and camp was kind of dying. And at 2008, we show up, or 2009, I should say, we show up, and been able to grow it back. So now we have about 450 kids a session. We have children that come from 15 states and 14 different countries all over the world. We really focus on some very specific values. We talk about being grateful, talk about choosing your attitude. We talk about building your courage. So those are the big three things that we focus on: gratitude, attitude, and courage. And we chose that because it's not a religious camp. It's a place where we're trying to help parents build good humans. And we thought when you look across kind of Western Civ, being grateful, choosing your attitude, how you respond to things, and building your courage, those are values that everybody can hang their hat on and can lead to a bigger, better life. So we really focus on finding young staff members, these 19 to 22-year-old young men and women that can come. They already had that worldview in their head, or they're excited about putting it in their head, and they're excited about showing that to the kids that come to camp. And so that's been, kind of our process. It's been great.
Do you? It's not a girls' camp, so anymore.
Boys and girls.
Boys and girls.
We had 3 boys, so we had to switch to a co-ed camp.
Your children had you mean as children? Your own children.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So
and have they grown up at camp?
Yeah. Each one of them lived in a cabin for 10 years with the same kids. Our oldest son is 22, and he and his soon-to-be wife work at camp full-time, and they're having a wedding in August at camp, and about half the people in the wedding are his camp bunkmates.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that. Do you, is it under snow? Were you just joking? Like, is it, you said we live in Athens because we don't like being under snow. Is camp under?
Well, for about 8 months it is.
Yeah.
Northeastern Pennsylvania is pretty cold. So
yeah, that's still like in the heart of like, there's plenty of stuff there. It's not like you're over in the.
Oh yeah, no,
on the Ohio side. Like there's New York is right there, and Connecticut, and everything else is like it's like little. Okay.
Yeah, so we're 3 hours from Central Park. We're 3 hours from the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia. So we got a lot of kids that come from those areas, and our staff members. A lot of our staff are from overseas. We actually rent buses for them on their day off. During orientation, we take them to New York City because they want to see it. It's pretty great.
Yeah. And do you have staffers that are like campers that become staff members? Certainly.
Yep, we do for sure. It's not the majority, but we have 10 or 12 every year who come in. Our youngest son will be on staff for the first time with about 10 of his friends from his age group.
Yeah, I think in total this year, of the 225 staff members we have, we'll have about 55 that are formerly campers, which is the best. You literally see them grow up, and then you watch them provide that experience for other kids.
Yeah. My kids grew up at, I wouldn't say they grew up at camp, but they were active for a handful of years at Camp Orkyla, which is a YMCA camp on Orcas Island. If you I don't know, you're from Seattle, so you might know that, but
Yep.
but yeah, it's the same thing. They just go and they have this whole like immersion experience of being away from us parents and being away from technology and phones and rules. Like there are certainly rules, but they get to like live into new rules and learn how to do new rules. And I just think it's very cool. What have you? So you've been there. My math is short. You said 2009, so it's 25, 26 years.
Well, we've been at Equahic. This will be our 17th summer. In total, we've been in camping since 2000. Well, since we got married, 2002. Yeah.
So what have you learned about gratitude? Like, what have you learned about gratitude, particularly as it comes to, say, for the two of you?
I would say that it's a practice. I think it's one of those things that people talk about, but you need a system and make it a habit. It's really easy to do it every once in a while. It's a lot harder to build the habit where it's the way you see the world. And that's what we get to do at camp. And we have a lot of time. And so we have a lot of opportunities. Every night, our counselors write down the things that they're grateful for on the bunk log when they're giving us information about their kids. So it's trying to train yourself to see the world that way. And that's what we do at camp.
And it seems to be the one practice that has the biggest impact, not only on the kids, but also on the staff members.
Yes.
So that when they leave, they'll come back the second year and say, I am a totally different person here at Equahic than I am at my college, university, or wherever I am. Because here we literally, like everybody here practices it. And it makes us feel better. Like you physically feel better, the more grateful. It also slows you down. Which is one of the things that I find really important, especially in this day and age when, my phone is literally ringing in my back pocket right now. It slows us down and makes us thankful for the things we're around where we actually can breathe and feel better.
How do the two of you do it in the off season between the two of you? Do you have a log that you fill out every night?
We don't. We do it. This is what we wrote our book about. And we just tripped on it because we were dating long distance originally and we didn't know each other very well. So I said, we got to, at the end of the day, just tell me 3 things you were happy about. Really just so I could kind of connect and understand who he was and what he appreciated and liked. And then we would say one thing we appreciate about the other person. And that was started 26 years ago before we were married, really just to get to know each other. And we just fell into that system that ended up being the thing that I think has sustained us through, 3 kids and working together and, all the ups and downs of life. And so that's the system that we created, and it's the best thing we've done.
And it really, so when we first started dating, I was in Athens, Georgia. Kate was, in, where were you? Western Massachusetts.
Yeah, Western Massachusetts.
And so that was a great piece. The appreciation actually came later. We actually added the appreciation on listening to Alison Armstrong, who works a lot with women, teaching them about men and how important it is for men to feel appreciated in the relationship. And so we were going through a rough time. And Kate said, we need to add this on. I appreciate this. And that made me feel like it was great knowing her gratitude. So I knew kind of more I could lean into some things that makes Kate happy. But also then to be able to hear what she appreciated about me that day, that opened me back up as well. So
yeah, and I think, we did the 5 languages of love at one point when we were early in our marriage. And he's a words of affirmation person, and I'm not. And it's just not a part of the way that I operate. And so it forced me into, giving him the love that he needed in the way that he did that wasn't supernatural for me to start with. So I think that made a big difference for us too.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. A lot of people stop there. A lot of people go, oh, that's not my love language. I don't know how to do that. And they stop. They don't actually learn how to speak somebody else's love language. So the thing that you added appreciation on to was the 3 happies. So tell me about what that is.
That is truly just the 3 happies, kind of like Martin Seligman's 3 good things. We certainly didn't know that when we started, but it was the habit of ending the day being appreciative or noticing the things that were good. And so it truly just started like, tell me 3 things that made you happy today, because I wasn't around you. I didn't know what your day looked like. I didn't know what you liked. And so then at the end of the day, when he was like, oh, I was really happy to talk to my brother on the phone, and I was happy to get to play a basketball game. And I was, and then it was kind of the roadmap that you develop over time. Now I know 25,000 things that has made him happy. And that's the thing where when he would say one and you're like, oh, that made you happy? Like he's like, oh, when I travel and you put clean sheets on the bed, like that made me so happy. And I thought, well, I would have never known that. So I do it every time he comes home because it's a 5-minute thing.
Yeah, why not? I have a couple I'm thinking of right now, and I've tried to introduce. I'm always learning cool things from different couples that I get to talk to, and this is so easy and so practical and so like makes so much sense. But they're gonna say, I don't know, it just feels kind of weird. Like it feels awkward to do that. It feels artificial. Like how do you help people with that piece of resistance?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's very awkward to walk, but we learned that through practice, and it was very, very helpful for us.
Yeah.
And thankfully, we can't remember it now. As adults, we remember all the things that we try to get better at, but yet we also know that if eating the right food is going to make me feel better, all right, I got to go through the discomfort of doing that, or saying no to that second plate of French fries or whatever it is. So when you can see the benefit is so great at the end for spending literally 2 minutes, 3 minutes a night, just thinking about the cool things and then listening just a little bit, over time, it actually builds intuition just because you hear it so often. Now, we have had friends that have tried it and they're like,
It's really hard.
One partner's like, nope, just not doing this. It's just not the way I communicate. Why is this important? And those are situations that we're kind of beating our heads up against the bed of wells. Like, why can't you do this? It's just a very simple thing.
I can see the resistance though, because if you're not in the habit of doing it, one, it's your mindset. How are you looking at the day and the world? And I mean, we had one friend who was like, I can't think of 3 things that made me happy. And so then it was like, okay, go so small. Like were you driving to work and you saw the sunrise? Did you hear your kids laugh in the other room? I think some of that is training yourself. And then really what it did for us, and it is a little awkward at first, I'm scanning the day for the things I appreciate about Cole, because you can't say the same thing day after day after day. Yeah. And so I'm constantly looking for the best in him, which isn't always the natural setting for people. And so I think it's like, oh, is that worth it to me to train myself to scan for the good? Because it's a little bit uncomfortable. It would be so weird to end a day now and not do it.
Right.
I think it's like when you get in the habit, I really can't imagine it. Even if Cole's in China or Japan or somewhere else, I text him before I fall asleep. These are my happies and this is something I appreciate about you. And so I do think that you have to see the value in being a little uncomfortable.
And that's been through the good and the bad and the challenging and everything, the postpartum, like all the stuff.
Yes.
It's become such a habit for us that it's kept us close. When we're running summer camp, with 675, souls at camp, we start the day at 6:30 in the morning. We end the day, at 12:30, 1 o'clock every night. And it's literally like, well, we're happy. I love you, and you pass out and you get up and you do it over again. So
I was going to say, when do you do it and who's in charge? Like, do you have is somebody the boss of the happies?
Whoever's going to fall asleep first.
Yeah. Okay. And so, if I go back, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to bed. What were your happies? Or vice versa. However, whoever is ending the day first.
So it's not a contest, or it's like no. It's your day to do it. I could see how that would be.
Although it is interesting, Kate has had moments where she's fallen asleep, after the 3 happies, but I didn't get my appreciate. So it's like a little nudge.
Hey.
Like, you forgot the appreciation.
Yes. But I do think if you're a person who it's a little uncomfortable for, if you'll try it for 1 month, I think you get to the point where you're like, I really love for you to say the thing you appreciate about me. Like, I didn't know it would fill me up as much as it does. As a person who's not a words of affirmation, it still is really meaningful to have him stop and to say, even if it's something that he saw, like, I really appreciate how you talked to our son, when he was frustrated. And you think, I can't believe you even saw that. In regular life, you would never communicate that. There's a lot of stuff I think that goes in our head that you just wouldn't say out loud unless there's some system in place.
Yeah. And there are moments where like I'll think, okay, there are like these 6 or 7 things I saw today that I appreciate about Kate. Which one would she like best? But that's not the point. It's the thing that I like the best or appreciated the most. So it's interesting how stuff comes up. Like you're not trying to do it to please the other person. You're really trying to do it for yourself and communicate that. And I think that practice, that's where the relationship comes from, right? It's all about this practice that we do over and over and over again.
Preaching to the choir, man. It's the thing I say the most to my own self and then to my clients. It's like, you can learn how to do this. And everything we know how to do, we learned how to do. So, all right. So, gratitude, attitude.
Yeah.
Talk to me about attitude. How does that How does that
So
play for the
that
two of you?
came through my training in sports psychology. I got to work with a guy named Bob Rotella, who is one of the dons of golfing performance, if nothing else.
Okay.
And he kept talking about the young people that he worked with in Special Olympics. He's like, they choose to be happy. And that's all it is, folks, is a choice. And he had us read all these different books, and it all came back down to, you get to choose. William James said that, the greatest thing that was ever discovered from a psychology standpoint is that the human mind is what gets to choose what it focuses on. And so why would you choose to focus on something bad? So when we're talking about, what's most important for our kids, if we can leave our kids with a couple things, the understanding that they get to figure out how to react in any situation. I can't remember the gentleman who wrote Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. He talks about how there's stimulus and there's a response. And you have to get to the point where you understand how to control the space between the stimulus and response.
Yeah.
And we feel like if
That's
our
wisdom.
kids can leave with that, we've made the world a little bit of a better place.
Yeah. So how does that show up for you guys? How do you navigate the difference between stimulus and response in your own relationship?
I think it's the pause. Really, I do. I think that it's just training yourself to pause for a moment. How is this going to land? What's the intent versus the impact here? And some of that comes with time and maturing. But I think that for us, the greatest, I think really fast. My brain, I process quickly. And so when we're in a conversation, I've learned to pause and let Cole think through in the way that he does.
Yeah.
Because he's just probably a little more thoughtful and a little bit slower to come up with where he wants to end up. And so I would say the pause is the...
Yeah. And I think for me, understanding the difference between, so again, back to Alison Armstrong, she's talking about men versus women, where men are very single focused. And that was evolutionarily very important for us. We could track things through the air, and we could focus on, go through pain or whatever it is to bring back the kill, if you will. Whereas women are much more diffuse aware. And they're seeing the pillow on the floor, the kid is crying, I got to get dinner, I've got to think, they're thinking about 7 or 8 different things, whereas I really have to think about one. And I would get frustrated. Kate would come to the office, I'd be typing an email to a family, and she'd go right into her talk and be like, what is going on? Like she finally, and you learning that helped it. So I think understanding those base foundational facts were really important for us from an attitude standpoint, because now I don't have a bad attitude when I know she's waiting for me. Like I'll see her out of the corner of my eye, I'll finish what I'm doing, and I'll turn, and she gets my full attention. And the same thing, and I'll also understand when I walk into a room, Kate's thinking about 6 or 7 things, and my job is, how can I make one of those easier? Like if I can make one of those easier, then we're going to be in a better place.
Yeah.
Because that's all I can do at a time is one.
Yeah. All right. And then courage. Talk to me about courage.
I think courage is the muscle that we don't do a great job of teaching our kids. I think we're super afraid now to let them fail and have natural consequences, and everything seems like such a big deal that we try and rescue and snowplow and fix things. And I think that allowing them to build the muscle of courage to step outside your comfort zone is the only place they grow. I mean, I would tell you in 20-some years of working with college kids, they are less and less competent or capable or confident.
In 2026 than they were in 2016 or 2006 is what you mean.
A totally different world. And my guess is it's that the parenting, that they just have not been allowed to fail. You have constant contact with your parents. Every decision you make, you go back and you text them, you think about it. I mean, we were allowed to make a lot of mistakes. And through that, you know that it's okay. And this generation does not. They're absolutely terrified of a misstep. So camp is a great place to say, step outside where you're comfortable. Do something, that doesn't feel great.
It's the best place in the world to make mistakes, because you're in an environment that's built for you to make mistakes and deconstruct a little bit and go from there. I tell kids all the time when they think about going to camp for the first time, it's like, all right, well, what do you love to do? And let's say a kid says, I love to play the piano. And I'll say, okay, great. You love it. So I love it. It's like my favorite thing to do. So, okay, you're going to go to recital and you're going to do your piece. If I tell you right now that you're going to screw up 2 notes, but at the end, everybody's going to clap and be like, that was awesome. Would that frustrate you? It's like, well, yeah, I'd be frustrated, but would you not do it? Go, oh, no, I still do it because I love it. Camp's the same way. Like, you're going to miss home. Like, so you're going to miss home for just a little bit, but yet you got 3 weeks to go do the things you never get a chance to do with all these kids from all the world. By giving them a sense of context, and how to kind of relate to that, they start to build a little bit of that courage. And we talk a lot about courage. It's not just about climbing up to the top of the climbing tower or get up on water skis for the first time. It's about making a new friend. It's about going to a situation that's brand new. It's about saying no when it's hard. It's about saying yes when it's hard. So that's the courage we're really talking about. We just happen to do it with all these great activities around it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what's coming. How have the two of you had to demonstrate courage in your own relationship toward one another?
Oh, I think you do it every day. It's a choice. I think it's the courage to be vulnerable, to say the thing, that is hard to say, to really reframe and to look at all the things you appreciate. And I think it really takes a lot of courage to do your marriage well, because you're constantly exposed and vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah. You're wide open all the time. And also it takes those times where you're so beat up with other things, not from the relationship, but you actually still have to put your best foot forward, or you have to say, I don't have it. Like, I really need help right now. And from a male standpoint, to speak about me, that's a hard thing to do. I think Kate says a lot. I'm a pretty good communicator for a guy. It's still incredibly hard to do because, I want to seem capable and, prepared and all the fun things. And there's times I just don't have it. So it's hard. It's hard and important.
What's your least favorite part of running camp?
I don't know.
But least favorite? I just have a fear that somebody will get hurt, really. I love the parts of it. I love the relationships. I like the hard things. But we have other people's children in our care.
Yeah.
And that's a huge responsibility. Like, all the time I'm thinking about it. How do you mitigate risk in every way that you can while still allowing people to stretch and grow? There's a lot of risk at camp, and it's somebody else's heart walking into your camp. And I think a lot about that all the time.
Yeah, I think for me, certainly that's very, very high on the list. I think the thing I like least is when you have to separate with somebody, whether it be a staff member or a kid. We're educators first. We want to make sure these kids and staff are learning to be good humans and learn how to live within, certain expectations. And when children or staff either can't or won't do that, that's a really hard thing. I think the worst thing is especially because I meet in person every child before they come to camp, in their home or at a coffee shop or somewhere. I want to spend time with them and their families. And if I get the wrong read from somebody and I say, all right, well, I'm going to let this child into camp, even though I'm probably not going to go well, and then it doesn't go well, I hate that. So that's actually taken a lot of courage from my standpoint over the course of the last couple of years, where I've said no to families when I've met and said, we're just not the right environment, for your child or for you, parent, because you need so much. There's a certain level of independence that's required to go to camp. But it's taken a lot of courage for me to say, no, thank you for your time. You're not coming to Equahic. It's not an invitation. And as a person who likes to please people and say yes all the time, that's a challenge.
How many kids do you have? You have 600 something kids?
We have 450 kids and 225 staff.
And you meet everyone in person before they come to camp?
First time, yes, your first time campers. So this year we'll have 150 new kids that come from all over, and I spend the year traveling and visiting with families, and that took a lot of courage from Kate, to be honest, because I'm gone probably. I was told by a flight attendant on Delta last weekend that I fly more than their pilots, and that was not a great thing to hear, but it
was important to us. This is our family, in the community that we have. We want everybody to thrive there, and not every kid can go and be independent and be kind. And we have high expectations for our kids. If you're going to come into our community, you're going to be a person who adds value, and so it's important.
That's bonkers. Like that's a pretty commitment. And you haven't shifted to like, oh, I'll just meet them on Zoom. You've elected not to do that. Yeah.
We had to.
We had to in 21 and 22 because of the COVID situation. And we found that the kids coming to camp, and it might have been a big combination of lots of things, but I didn't know them very well. When parents called and they were concerned, I didn't have a connection with them as well. I didn't like it as much. Frankly, our retention wasn't nearly as good. So I told Kate, I was like, we have to get back doing the way we used to do this.
Yeah. And so Kate, you mentioned like you've seen that college kids are less equipped now. How about for you, Cole, visiting with families? Have families changed over the last 20 years?
Yes.
Are they less equipped? Are they more equipped? Like how's that work?
I think parents are less confident. You're seeing more parents be friendly with their kids rather than being the, authoritative. We don't want authoritarians, as parents, but we want people that are authoritative, that understand that their kid can do hard things. And I think that's one of the really biggest parts about this for us is that parents, as Kate said, the risk is we're taking we're providing an experience in a community for your children. And that's the biggest responsibility there is. You as a parent have to feel trust in us that they're going to do it. If we have a family that is going to be on top of us, call me every day, like twice a day, which has happened, that's not the right fit. I'm happy to do that for a little while, but it's going to get to the point where parents need to trust us.
Yeah, and pretty clearly 20 years ago, parents were making the decision about where the kid went to camp, and now it feels like kids are making the decision about where they're going to camp.
In most places.
When you say that's more consistent.
More consistent. And that's again, a game I'm not going to play it. So I had a family say, well, come sell us. I'm like, nope, I don't sell. I tell stories and I invite, but we don't sell.
Yeah.
Right.
That's crazy. You said your oldest son is getting married this summer?
Yes.
At
22
camp?
years old. At camp.
How are you teeing him? What advice do you have for him and his bride?
Our sons who have girlfriends already do their 3 happies in appreciation, and they have since they started dating. Our son Cole and his fiancee Sydney have been dating since high school, and they've put this practice in place, and they're really far along on being able to communicate and be thoughtful about each other.
Well, and even our middle son, who's 20 years old and working full time, he's got a great girlfriend, and he called Kate not too long ago. He's like, "Mom, we've been doing the 3 happies. I love it. This is like we really know each other. This is incredible." And this is a 20-year-old young man that his frontal lobes definitely are not there yet. But it's neat seeing that experience and bear fruit for him.
Yeah. That's cool. So you're optimistic about where they're headed in terms of, it's cool that you're talking about 3 boys who are figuring this out. I've got 2 girls, and in my practice too, it seems like women and girls are way ahead of boys in terms of like emotional intelligence and the ability to kind of do relationship. And is it as simple as just unlocking, intention around? I'm not doing this on purpose. It is as simple as locking intention around gratitude and attitude and courage. Like, is that the thing that we need to instill in the next generation of, people?
I'm a big Tony Robbins fan. I think a lot of it is mindset. I think it's deciding what are you aiming at and how do I get there? And for us, the 3 happies and appreciation is the system that got us in the direction that we wanted to go. And so for me, I think it's more that. I think it's like the boys know that they want to be a good partner for their wife. And, when you can say to them, all right, you're going to get a roadmap. You're going to get, a lot of these things. They're invested in it. I think when you're young, like as a 22-year-old man, he really wants to make Sydney happy. That's really important to him at this stage. And they're kind of learning together how to communicate, which a normal 22-year-old boy isn't ending the day saying, I really appreciate that you went to the restaurant I wanted to for dinner.
Yeah.
So when I think you're starting to build that.
I think the other piece for young men, and this is something I got through Michael Gurian and a couple others that I read a lot about, especially as we had 3 young boys, how do you build good men? And I'm a firm believer that women are smarter in a lot of ways. They're more emotionally connected. I think we men have all the same emotions. We just have a harder time getting there in terms of how to communicate that. And I really think we as a society are missing the ball in training young men. Because for a long time, you were raised either in a hunting group or when we were more agrarian society with uncles and aunts and grandparents, and you were working fields and you're working hard jobs and you're working next to older men, young men or older men, and they're teaching you. Because if they don't teach you, the community is going to suffer. Now we've gotten to the point where we don't expect or need as much or enough from our young men. So like when our boys, we have a big Jewish population at camp, and it's fabulous. A lot of bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs. And so we did some research on that. It's like there's nothing like that for our boys, because we're not Jewish. So Kate and I actually worked together, and we built basically, in some ways, a Christian bar mitzvah, where we were literally teaching our boys for 8 weeks, very specific things that they had to do, from changing a tire to cooking a meal to sewing on a button to balancing your books, along with, for us as Christians, going deep into the New Testament and understanding what does Jesus ask for young men. And we actually had, probably a dozen or so young men and their fathers do it with me, and one mom. That was great. So we spent a lot of time thinking about how to intentionally prepare boys to become young men. And I think that that's what's really missing, especially for most of society.
And I think the Disney movies didn't help the girls very much. I think the idea of like the fairy tale and he can read your mind and he's going to know all the things, that just is not real. And I think we don't do a very good job of just being honest about it's work. You want to find somebody that you share values with, and that you want a similar path going forward. And then you're going to work at it all the time. Every day you're going to wake up and make a choice to, be a good partner in your marriage. And I think that the fairy tale idea and the idea of Cole should just know what makes me happy, it's a recipe for disaster.
So what's your plan? Are you going to run camp till you're old and gray, and are you going to get buried there?
I would love to be the camp mom, and then I just get to do all the fun things instead of all the hard things. But I can't imagine not being there at this stage of life.
Yeah, we're very fortunate that we found something that fulfills us. Like we really enjoy it. Kate loves trying to make things better all the time, and I really like interacting with people and teaching. And it's one of those things where it can be a family job for a long time, and hopefully our boys want to get into it. And in that case, mom, Kate gets to be camp mom, and I get to mow the grass and drive the bus. So it'd be great.
Well, very cool. So you guys have a book. Tell us about your book and how to find it, and if you want to tell. It doesn't sound like you need to recruit too much on camp. It's on the camp side of the equation, but
always looking for good families and good staff. Zach, you look like you'd be great in the book. So come on.
No, I'm retired. I'm retired from serving. Although my daughter, she's an actress, and she went to school to study theater, and she wants to be on Broadway and the whole bit, but she did the thing that everybody does when they graduate from college. She got her first job at summer camp. And so she was in the woods in Virginia. She was in, I forget exactly where she was. She was north of, I want to say Chantilly, but I think that's wrong. And she was teaching Shakespeare in the woods to kids who were just like, and I was like, Abby, this is perfect. This is a perfect summer job. Just go.
It is.
Be in the woods.
For her.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So the book it's called 3 Happies and Appreciation. It's, a very descriptive title. People can find it on Amazon. So we have actually 2 different copies. We've got our versions. We've got one for families, because we feel like it's such an important practice to start when our kids are young. When you go to bed or around the dinner table, you just talk about what are we happy about for today, and what do you appreciate about mom, and what I appreciate about you. And we also have one for couples. So 3 Happies and an Appreciation for couples. We think it's a great gift, for a newlywed couple or people who are just got engaged or just starting to date. Very simple, short little books, all based on a whole lot of research that we didn't even know until we actually started doing this, and then we started researching about relationships. It's like, oh, wait a second, this, John Gottman talks about this, and all these other pieces, and so it's been a neat process to put that together in a very easy to read, cute little book that you can find on Amazon and give to anybody.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I'm happy to have spoken with you today and really to learn more about how you guys are making it work. It's always a delight to talk to people who are just choosing actually to live in the upside, versus it's so easy right now to get caught up in the downside, and there's a whole new word called doom scrolling that we've all kind of given ourselves permission to indulge, when maybe we ought to just think about what makes us happy and what we're grateful for. So I'm glad to have that conversation with you and to be able to share it with other people.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach. Thanks for having us on, Zach.
I want to thank Cole and Kate so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciated learning from them about 3 Happies and an Appreciation. I think you should do it. I think if you're listening to this podcast, you should do this activity. Kate says, try it for a month and see what happens. See if you don't feel better. See if you feel better about the world we live in and not just in your relationship. As always appreciate your support of Marriage Therapy Radio. You can do that by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can do that by following us on Instagram and sharing it and sharing this podcast with people that you know that might be interested. Also, please check out my Substack. You can find me there, or it's at Stuff I Write. I am planning on rolling out a whole bunch of stuff once I finish my book. My manuscript is due just in a few more days. And I will be glad to be done with that. And then my juices are flowing, and I want to make sure that I can continue to be creative and thoughtful in a space other than the podcast. But again, thank you for listening to Marriage Therapy Radio, and I'll thank you again for the time and attention you're putting into making your relationship better today than it was yesterday.